Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are live. Okay, I got to run real quick. I'll be right back while you guys are coming in and joining. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are live. Okay, I got to run real quick. I'll be right back while you guys are coming in and joining. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are live. Okay. I'll be right back while you guys are coming in and joining. Yes. Hey guys. Hello, hello. Whoops, my camera is not on YouTube. There we go. Sorry, I'm a little late, everybody. Let me know where you're joining from on TikTok and YouTube. Hey guys. Oh, I got to turn off the sound on YouTube, don't I? Camera's not on YouTube. Let me turn that off. Okay. See some of you coming in on YouTube. Some hi Hollywood. Wow, somebody's joining from Hollywood today. Wonderful. All right, some of my regulars coming in. Just let me know where you guys are joining from. And let me get my TikTok microphone set up here. And we're going to do a little Bible talk today. Glad you're with me. I'm running a little late and I'm still running around grabbing stuff because we decided to sleep in today. Good afternoon. Ready to get into this, says Kristen. And you're lucky it's afternoon because it's still morning for me. And my dog woke me up last night and I ended up not sleeping very well. So here I am, a little groggy and grumpy today. So look out if the Pharisees join us today. But we're going to do some more Matthew 5. We've been there for a while. I'm also going to start doing one of my regular features I want to do. I did a TikTok on it the other day of, yeah, I'm okay, Kristen. I'm just being selfish and a jerk. But I want to start doing some more targeted things of looking around at different things. And one will be a TikTok I did the other day. When I was on TikTok, I've been jumping off TikTok this week trying to see if I can reboot the algorithm for me. But one segment I'll do today is things Christians say the Bible says that it doesn't say. And I think that's really good. All right. Brittany says, hey, I finally made it. All right, cool. Brittany, glad you're here. Sorry for the drinking noises. But let's get into the Bible today. I'm glad you're with us. But I'll tell you what, Thursday night, some of you may have been with me. We ended up doing a Hearing God session together. And I got a couple of people who reached out and gave me some good feedback on that. And so I'm thinking that may be something we do a little more often. Hi, Molly. Glad to see you. Because I do think these spiritual moments are important and connecting to the supernatural. Because if we're not connecting to the supernatural in all of this, I don't like religion at all. I am anti-religion, but I am pro connecting to whatever is bigger than us in the universe. And so, yeah, I think I may do some more of those, and I may try to do that on somewhat of a regular basis, just giving people an opportunity and sort of a guided spiritual moment, a community spiritual moment. Now we do communion together on Sunday mornings, but this would be, hi, Lisa, good morning on YouTube. Let me know where you guys are joining from if you can. Just a guided community moment of spirituality that says, hey, we're going to acknowledge the bigness of the universe and that there's something greater than us in all of this thing and do that together. And some of you said that was something that was really significant for you. So let me know. There's a slight static noise. I wonder what's causing that. I'm listening to hear if I can hear anything. Let's see. Let me make sure my mic is plugged in properly. All right. Let me know if that sounds any different. I can't think of what would be causing static. I don't hear it when I stop talking. Not too bad, just pointing it out. All right. Well, let me know if it gets too distracting. I guess I could just go straight off the camera, the phone mic, if I need to. So let me know. All right, guys, let me know where you're joining from. I'm having trouble getting my computer set up here. Oh, wait, I see what the problem is. Okay, let me get that out of the way now. All right. All right, Lisa says, sounds like a good plan on YouTube instead of TikTok this time. I don't hear it on YouTube. Okay. I think you're not saying you don't hear me right now on YouTube. You're saying you didn't hear our spiritual moment on YouTube. Is that right? All right, guys. Are we set up and ready to go? How's the sound, Kristen? Hi, Washington, D.C. The static is just the mic rubbing on your shirt. Okay, I'll try not to move too much. Hi, Michigan. Good morning. Glad you guys are here. All right. Well, let me see. Maybe I could do something else with the mic so it didn't rub on my shirt. How about I have a little stand right here. I could just put it on there and maybe that'll help the issue. Yeah. Go over this way. Someday I'll have this all figured out. All right. Let me know if that sounds better, worse, any of the above. So interested in discussing the events in Atlanta and the church's role. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that today. And any questions you have, put them in that question box at the bottom and I'll come back to it. Lisa says on YouTube, they're not hearing static. So that was the TikTok mic, I guess. So let's go to Matthew 5. So God bless your word for us today. Just bless every household represented by those tuning in on YouTube and on TikTok. Show us something great in your word, not what we've always known, but maybe something new. Something new. Amen. So we've been in Matthew 5 for about 3 weeks. And if we do this, it'll take us about 5 years to get through the book of Matthew this way. And I may move around from time to time, but hi, Oklahoma. But Matthew 5, I think, is just so important of a chapter to us. It's traditionally, now that really made the mic sound loud, I'm sure. It's traditionally called the Sermon on the Mount. And some say it was probably a sermon that Jesus preached on a regular basis. It was not a one-time thing, but it was something that Jesus probably taught more than once, if it was not sort of his seminal sermon that he would teach over and over again. And so we went through the Beatitudes part of it and talked last week about Jesus coming to fulfill the law. So remember, from my perspective, I think this is it says at the start that Jesus went up on the mountain, called his disciples to him, sat down, opened his mouth, and spoke. And so all of that to me says this was not something that he just taught to his small circle of like 12 disciples, but the wider circle of disciples. There was probably a large group that followed him from town to town, including some wealthy women who funded Jesus' ministry. And so he then taught the Beatitudes, and then he started speaking against the religious system of the day and the politically intertwined religious system. And that's really what I think the mission of Jesus is to display how we as human beings and can connect directly with the Creator. He didn't come to create the Christian religion. He came to show us how to be connected directly to God without religion. And therefore, then much of what he spoke was about what is wrong with the religious system. And remind me, I'll talk a little bit more about that because I hear from people a lot like, well, Pastor Paul, you're saying this about Christians, but that's not me, or that's not our church. Thank you for the gift. Awesome, guys. And share this out if you can. And let people know that we're on, and share it, follow my page. All of those things help tell TikTok like, hey, people like this guy. You need to spread his word around. But yeah, so Jesus was speaking against the religious system of the day. Like, I think if he were on earth today, it would be again, he would be saying, hey, yes, Mr. and Ms. Evangelical, you may be okay in your heart, but you're a part of a system that is oppressing people, and you're responsible to that. You're responsible to the spirit of the groupthink that you're in. And so you can say, I'm okay and my heart is pure and all those things, but Jesus would say, but the system is bad. The spirit, the mindset of your group is bad, and you're responsible to speaking to that. So we can't like say, well, I'm okay. And American Christianity has become this really individual thing, and we're just supposed to win souls to heaven. And I don't think the Bible indicates that. I think the Bible is consistently saying, hey, we're all responsible to the communal heart, the spirit, the mindset of whatever groups we're in. So that would include our cities, our states, our country, even regionally. And certainly if we're involved in an organization like an evangelical church, or the Big C evangelical church, or the Big C Catholic Church, we're responsible to the spirit of that. And we're actually under the influence of that. And so that's what Jesus was constantly speaking to. So let me read a little bit from Matthew 5 now. And I'm going to start. I finished on verses 21 through 26 last week. And I just want to read those to start it off because it really sets the tone. So you've heard it said of those of old in Matthew 5, verse 21, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to counsel, and whoever says you fool, or the term was raka, which was a common put down, like you moron, we might say today, or some terrible thing like that. You're saying if you call somebody that, you will be liable of hellfire. And those things, I see that I'm in the middle of a spiritual crisis. We'll come back and I'll interact with you guys in a bit. So yeah, I see your questions coming in, and we may not be able to hit all of those because I got on late today and got started late. But so he says, you who call your brother, and I think he's not just saying other Christians, he's saying other human beings, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. And so verse 23, so if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you're going with him to court, lest the accuser hand you over to the judge and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. Truly, I say, you will never get out until you've paid the last penny. So what's really important of this is what Jesus is saying. The Pharisees were very emphatic, loud worshipers. Like today we have, this worship music, and we've had anti-mask protests disguised as worship services. And we're like, look at us. We're worshiping God in the public square. Aren't we amazing? Aren't we something? Look at us. Even in the middle of a pandemic, we're having worship services and getting rich and selling t-shirts. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? We're having these worship services. Kirk Cameron is out here. Aren't we great having services in the public arena? Aren't we showing our affinity for God? Aren't we amazing, godly people? And here Jesus is saying, no, if you're having a worship service and you're offending your brother, I'm not impressed. Go fix it with your brother. Put your worship down. Stop worshiping and go fix it. And so I think he would be saying about these worship services in the middle of the pandemic, I wish you were more concerned about keeping people healthy, even if some of what we did in the tactics of all of this turned out to be unnecessary or all those things. I get all those arguments. But I think Jesus would say, you throwing aside care for others to show this public expression of worship for me, great. With your public expression of worship, you've got your reward for that. You get to tell everybody how wonderfully holy you are. Congrats. But I'm not impressed. I wish you cared more about other human beings. I believe that's exactly what Matthew 5:21 through 26 is saying. I think Jesus on earth today would say, great, you're pro-life, you're anti-abortion. Congrats. I'm not impressed, though, by you calling people baby killer. I think you're the one worthy of hellfire because you're using your holiness as cover to abuse people, to oppress them, to divide them from God, to tell them God's not pleased with them because of their stance. I think Jesus would not be impressed with the right-wing evangelical church today. Thank you for the agreement there on TikTok. Thank you, Lisa, for your comments. You say you were bringing that up with your older evangelical parents. Yes, I think in this season, for me, Matthew 5:21 through 26 is one of the most important passages in the Bible. I think Jesus would emphatically be saying, nah, not impressed with your pro-life stance. You think you're something for doing that. I wish you just loved people more. All right, so now let's talk about what happened in Atlanta this week as we go into the next passage here, because listen to what Jesus is doing here. So what we're going to constantly see is Jesus saying, you've heard it said of old, but I say. So what he was doing was taking commonly known axioms, like he would say today, you've heard it said that Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion were not modest enough and too sexual, but I say. And then he would take that and turn it on its head and say, but you religious guys, you're worse. So he wouldn't actually be saying that he agrees with the you've heard it said part, which we sometimes take and say, look, well, he did say this here. No, he's actually setting up a straw man to knock it down with what is the true character of the heart of God. I see Rosie says, I think God would be mad at the guy who had a bad day. I think God would be mad at the guy who said the guy had a bad day, particularly when that police officer has anti-Asian tropes on his social media. Come on, let's do better. So I did a video on TikTok this week and a blog, pretty simple blog for me. And then my friend Lauren did a blog on my website, if you go to pastor-paul.com, about Christian terrorism. On Evangelicalish the other night, my friend April said, if this had been an Islamic man shooting up these spas, what would be the response? Sorry, just looking at something here. What would be the response of the headlines in the media? It would be about radical Islamic terrorism. It would be about the radicalization of a Muslim man by his religion. Why aren't we saying the same about Christianity? And again, I saw it today on social media. You can't say that this is us. I'm a Christian. I don't believe this way. But no, we're responsible to the teachings. So Jesus says here, you have heard in verse 27 that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So first off, by the way, he's blaming the man for the lust, not the woman, which is a big problem in evangelicalism. We're telling women, if you dress a certain way, immodest, you're tempting men. And you ought not do that. And so this is one of the stories that's coming out. And again, we don't totally know what the whole story is, but the young man is saying he killed these women because they were temptation to him. Obviously, he felt a ton of shame, and he used it to have his heart radicalized to say, well, God will be okay with me killing other human beings to take away the temptation. I don't know that that's a direct 100% correct assessment of the situation, but we've been talking for a while now about how the purity purity culture, Puritanism of the evangelical church. Sex bad, sex bad, sex bad. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Women, make sure that you're wearing loose clothing and not tight stuff and not low cut, and or else you're going to lead men into temptation or boys into temptation. And boys, if you're having sex, you're going to hell. And if Jesus comes back the moment that you're in the middle of that, what's going to happen? You're going to have 666. I mean, all of it is shame-based, oppressive teaching that makes an environment where, let's face it, very natural, God-created urges are being told to us, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. And it just creates this environment of weirdness around sexuality. Now, and in some ways, the Cardi B, anyway, let me finish that thought. I'm always side roading and rabbit trailing myself. Our weird view of sexuality, our fear of having real conversations and then not providing, not wanting them to have sex ed for our kids, not wanting to provide opportunity for them to understand how to have a healthy view of sexuality, leads to an oppressive, weird environment where some will then take that to have their heart radicalized. Some will take it to deep shame. For some, that deep shame will take them to a place of even suicide or self-harm or self-hatred. And then others will take it to a deeper place of doing something really radically horrible. And I believe it's time for the Christian church to start to deal with the fact of, hey, we're radicalizing some people with our teaching, and own it. Because I was saying over the last couple of weeks, God knows, after 9/11, we made our Islamic friends stand up and say, no, we're against that. We're against Islamic terrorism. No, that's not us. Well, Christians, it's your turn now. It's time for you to stand up and say, no, January 6th is not okay. We're going to change our teachings because of January 6th. And now here's another shooting from another white Christian man. It's time for us to say, we're radicalizing some people with our teaching, and it's not okay. And we use it in the most wonderful of terms. Our modesty teaching sounds so right, but I don't think it is. I think we need to teach our children to have a healthy respect for sexuality, to understand why they're driven hard by it, what the beauty of it is and the value of it is, and then how to make healthy decisions for themselves around it. I think even our teaching of women as second-class citizens, husband rules the household, women, and I hear it said like this, we prize our women. We understand they're valuable, like valuable china. No, in that there's dehumanization in that. So then we have Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion at the Grammys, which has everybody going crazy. And Christians, we just love these moments when we get to lose our minds over things. Sorry, I'm going to have a bite of my breakfast real quick. So what is that? How do we respond to that? Sorry, I can't eat in the middle of this, can I? So we say, oh my goodness, look at these women. We can't even have our kids watch TV anymore. I remember Madonna sliding around on the stage, 1984 MTV Video Music Awards, in a wedding dress, singing like a virgin. And I thought, oh man, that's wrong. That's so wrong compared to my Christian upbringing. But I cannot take my eyes off of it. I cannot take my eyes off of it. Because it's a natural thing to be drawn to. And Madonna would later say, that was my empowerment. The music industry wouldn't put me out there. I found ways by using my sexuality to get myself noticed and my talent noticed. So is that a Madonna problem, or is that a societal problem? Is it okay? Should we say, sure, all bets are off? Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, do whatever you want? I don't know. I know that God is like, I'm going to let you be free and make your choices and work it from there. Now, some may say, as I heard in a conversation this week, well, what we're seeing is the opposites. You know, when you put puritanical views on people, what is going to happen is this rebellion to the other end of the spectrum. Oh yeah, you tell me I can't dress immodestly. I'll go all the way to the other end of the spectrum and do something nearly pornographic on the Grammys. But I think if we had a healthy view of sex and sexuality, if we had a healthy view of people being allowed to express themselves as they feel in their hearts, for people to make healthy decisions around sex and sexuality and even gender and all the things that we're having all the battles around. What Jesus is saying here is, you've heard it said, don't do this, but I'm telling you the standard, if the standard is your behavior to get to God, then here's the standard. It's way higher than your rules. Your rules are not good enough. But let me tell you what the standard is. Jesus says, get in relationship with God and work it out in relationship with God and with each other. Instead of having the rules, I know what's right and I know what's wrong. I know how I can get right up to the edge of the rule and still consider myself to be okay and better than those people. What if we started having a healthy view of these things, and then we could have a discussion of whether or not the women have gone too far? I remember at the Super Bowl halftime a few years ago with Jennifer Lopez and Shakira, you know, it really hit me that people were saying, you know, what Shakira is doing is cultural, not sexual. It's sexual because your culture sees it as sexual. Her culture does not. You're the one sexualizing this. And I talk a lot about Mike Pence and his refusal to meet with women one-on-one. I'm saying you're the one that's sexualizing the woman, not the woman. It's not her fault. And women shouldn't be put at a second-class status because of our Puritan hangups. And I think we would be better positioned to have conversations about these things if we had a healthy view of it. But because our view is so unhealthy, just say no. Women dress modest. Women, if you have sex before marriage, you're a used up, chewed up wad of bubble gum. We create an environment of shame and rules that then, to the extreme outcome of that, is what we see in Atlanta this week. If this is good and this is bad, and I can judge people as bad, sex workers, and we don't even know if these are sex workers or not, but even if they were sex workers, then I can judge it's okay for them to be killed because what they were doing was so bad in the eyes of God anyway. Whereas instead, if we said, no, God is a God of freedom and choices, not rules. In the middle of freedom, bad things can happen. One of the things I always say, in the Soviet Union, you know, they didn't have crime in the Soviet Union, because if you committed a crime, you paid huge costs for it. So, and they were and all their freedoms were taken away. So there wasn't crime. There was a black market in those things, but in essence, there wasn't crime like there is in the United States. So if we're afraid of people doing wrong things, then we just pass laws and laws and laws and more laws and more laws. Because in freedom, bad, mess happens. So we can get rid of bad things happening to a certain extent by just taking away everybody's freedom. But what's the cost? And so look at it from the church perspective. Well, we'll just take away everybody's freedom and we'll tell you if you have sex, you're used up and wasted as a woman. And then, by the way, then the day you get married, you got to flip a switch and be willing to have sex at the drop of a hat anytime your husband demands. It's just such bad teaching. It's just so not the heart of God. What have we said to our daughters? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about where it and sons. I'm sorry, just to say daughters, our daughters and sons. Let's have a healthy conversation about sex and sexuality, where it fits in your goals and where you want to go in life. And there may be a point where you decide to have sex before you're married. And it doesn't make you any less of a human being in the eyes of God. It's such a scary thing for our Christian parents to hear. It's so much easier to just say, no, don't do it or else. It takes a lot more work to say, let's talk about it. If your children are coming to you and saying, I think maybe I'm bisexual or trans, let's not feel like they're making a second-class choice from what we hope they'll be. Let's just say, well, can we talk about it? Let's see where this feeling is coming from. And if you are truly feeling gender dysmorphia, let's walk that through together. But no matter what you decide, I'm with you because you're my child and I will never be disappointed. What difference would that make in the lives of our children? I can tell you it would have made the whole world of difference in my life. I would have lived a very different life. I didn't even get close to getting through what I wanted to get through in the Bible. So let me finish this passage, then I'll get to your questions because we're running out of time very quickly. You've heard it said, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And if your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it's better for you to lose one of your members than that your whole body go to hell. So this is one of those things where the Bible is not saying what Christians say that it says. So you could look at this passage and say, see, Jesus is saying if you commit adultery, even if you look at a woman on a magazine cover and you think, ooh, wow, look at that you are going to hell for that. And they would point to this passage and say, see, even Jesus is saying so. But you have to understand what he's doing is he's creating a juxtaposition of who God really is versus what religion tells us. And he's saying, if the goal is do good or go to hell, then I'm telling you, here's the standard. And if you don't meet this standard, which you can't because you're human and you're not going to be able to meet it, you're going to be the one thrown into hell. And better that you just gouge an eye out. If you're really saying don't commit adultery or you're not favored by God, well, then, you better just pluck an eye out, which was a common saying at the time, by the way. And some would do that dismemberment of themselves. But his juxtaposition is do this, don't meet the standard, go to hell. Or maybe it's about the goodness of God. And maybe the commandments aren't don't commit adultery and don't lust after a woman. The commandments are love God and love your neighbor as yourself and work it out in relationship with the creator of the universe and with each other. That's exactly what he's saying. He's saying the rules are not good enough. And I've come to do away with the rules. And then we see, if you read Romans and Hebrews, it says the rules didn't ever create a space where sin was taken care of. It took God's grace for sin to be taken care of. And so it's not about the rules. It's not about the 10 commandments. It's not about the hundreds of other rules the Pharisees would put on top of it. And it's not about the hundreds of rules that Catholics and evangelicals put on top of it. It is about get in relationship with God and let God walk out life with you. And one of the things of that is what is not good for me and thus sin because I'm doing something that is harmful to me and the relationships around me may not be sin for you. Book of James says, for him that knows to do right and does it not, for that person, it's sin. What Jesus was all about, everything he's saying in these passages is your love with the rules, because it gives you the opportunity to feel self-righteous and smug and believe you're better than other people. That's not from God. And God looks at your rule keeping and your placing of the rules on other people with absolute disdain. And he would say the same to evangelicals today. Your purity teaching to your young women makes me sick. Okay. Let me see what you guys are talking about and what your questions are. I've got Graham and Lisa over on YouTube and you guys on TikTok here. Legalism is not of God, says Smiley Me. Absolutely. Cue altar call music. Yeah. So morals, see the problem with morals, I've heard people say, well, there still should be modesty in morals. Problem is modesty and morals are cultural, and we have to be careful that we're not saying, okay, you're unclean because you don't live up to my modesty standard or morals. And they're saying, well, this is our culture. There are cultures around the world where women don't wear tops, just like men don't. There are cultures in the world where they wear a lot less clothing. That's why young American kids used to look at National Geographic when we were little, because you could see women with, you could see women's breasts because there were these cultures they were taking pictures of that women didn't wear tops. And so as American Christians, we would say, oh, how immodest. And they're saying, no, I just got out of bed this morning and dressed the way our families have dressed for generations. And it's your problem that you can't see breast without losing your mind. Maybe you need to pluck out an eyeball. I think that's what God would say. So we could say that dance is so sexual and it makes me sick. And other cultures would say, we call that dancing. You call it sexuality, we call it dancing. So that's the problem when we throw around terms like morals and modesty. It's whose morals and modesty, whose interpretation of the Bible. Because, man, if you read the Bible, there's a lot of weird sexual stories in there. I told you at the start of this thing in Matthew 1 that Tamar is in the lineage of the heritage of Jesus, and Tamar's fame is that she dressed up as a prostitute and had sex with her father-in-law. And she's praised in the Bible for doing so. She was the righteous one in that situation. Yeah, Kristen says Song of Solomon. Yeah, we used to board sitting in church 4 times a week. We'd crack open Song of Solomon there and giggle to death reading sex stories. Pastor, can you please cover your neck? That could be distracting to the girls here. I know. I need to dress more modestly, don't I? I should have a turtleneck on. I tried to choose cool looking glasses and have cool looking hair. Maybe I'm trying to use sexuality to, which would be hard for me to do, but we got to understand God differently. So we need to see the Bible as it is and start to say it's not a rule book. It's not even a single narrative. It's a collection of a whole bunch of stories written by human beings in their cultural context. That doesn't make it invalid or worthless. I think it makes it more fabulous and amazing that all these different people in all these different times and different towns and different cultures were writing towards the same story. But when we make it this rule book that goes from end to end, we're just being totally dishonest because it doesn't even go end to end. And secondly, we're missing what it's trying to tell us. And the ultimate of the story is the creator of the universe is saying, stop trying to build towers of Babel to get to me when I'm already with you. I'm already in you. I already have done everything that needs to be done to make you righteous. All we need to do is get in relationship with each other, and you get in relationship with the people around you, and you work hard to live out right relationship with me as an identity giver, and then living righteous with one another out of that identity. And that would change everything. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. Boy, I see a lot of stuff you guys are commenting. I hope you all are enjoying each other because I wish I could concentrate more on it. Kathleen on TikTok says, I can't wait till the day until we address how Christianity appropriated most of pagan Wiccan practices. Isn't that funny? Christians die when they hear me say that, but she's absolutely right. Christmas and Easter, both pagan holidays. So we have Palm Sunday week's coming up next week. So I may have to spend some time talking about Easter. Even the name Easter is a pagan name, yes. And most of our Christmas symbols are pagan symbols. Kristen says, my issue lies in the hypocrisy of evangelical standards. Don't uphold all Levitical law. Yeah. Lisa says, what is the bottom line of what God wants from us? He wants a relationship with us. That's correct. So guys, sorry, I got on a little bit late and got swamped with some other things. And so I didn't get to go into everything we do. Graham Cole says separation of church and state doesn't exist. Oh, Graham's over on YouTube and TikTok. I'm not sure you're talking to me, Graham, about that. Hi, Brittany. Nicole says, I agree. Learning history of Christmas and Easter is mind-blowing and Christians refuse to hear it. Now, I don't think where we are today, it's some would say, well, we shouldn't celebrate Christmas and Easter because they were pagan holidays. I don't think at the end of the day, it's wrong for us to say, hey, we're going to celebrate Jesus' birth on December 25th, and we're going to celebrate his death and resurrection on these particular dates in March or April. Some say we shouldn't do those. We shouldn't have a Christmas tree in the church. I'm like, no, we can use those to symbolize our faith and our story. We just have to be honest about it. Now, Lisa, I love you guys typing in your stuff. I got myself off track today. And you guys can all read each other's stuff and love it. quick break, and then I'll tell you a couple of other things before I go, and then we'll come back, my wife and I, at about 10:30. I'm inviting people to join my Patreon community. And yes, that does have some financial help for me there. And so if you can't afford to do anything more financial because it is a weird time, then this is not for you. We'll keep doing these together. But if you can, if you know, for as little as $5.99 a month, you can really help. I'd love, my goal is to get 300 people at the $5.99 a month level. And doing that just is a big help for enabling me to do this. It's a big part of where my income comes from as a podcaster and TikTok creator. And so if you go to my website, pastor-paul.com, click on the Patreon button in the upper right-hand corner, you can sign up and you'll get my audiobook. The new audiobook segment's going to come out this week. So I'd love it if you join, or you can go to patreon.com/NPE podcast. So yeah, I don't do a fund drive or all those things. Graham says, as long as we don't call it a tithe. So let me tell you, I think the tithe, we talked about this last week some, is not an extant law for New Testament Christians. What I do believe is appropriate is when people provide a service for us, we should reward them for that. So the way Jesus was funded was two ways. He had some wealthy women, one who was the wife of a man who worked in Herod's inner circle. And he had a couple of fairly wealthy women who we understand did much of the funding of Jesus' life and ministry. And then it was normal in that culture when a rabbi would enter a town, families would invite that rabbi to come to their home and teach and bless them. And so the rabbi would go and stay there, and they would, of course, provide lodging and food and all of those things for Jesus, and they would give him financial help. So that's sort of the way I look at it, is if you're blessed by somebody who's in ministry, it's really appropriate to say, hey, do you have a Venmo or a Cash App or a Patreon where I can give you a gift? And do it even not as a tax deductible contribution. So I understand me talking about money is hard sometimes for people because it's been so abused. So I understand that, but I don't think we swing to the other end and be afraid to talk about money. Graham says, I'm having church while drinking beer in my bath time. I'm going to donate for sure. Yeah, it's cool. And I'm just getting excited because I'm making some plans. I think a lot's going to change. I know these things are tough for people, but I'm looking at branding. I want to change my website. And so we're going to be doing some new things. And I also do emotional well-being coaching. If you're interested in having a life coach, there are ways we can do that. You can DM me and find out about that. And so we're going to anyway, it's hard for me to explain, but I want to integrate it all together because I believe being able to change our identity and mindset allows us to be open to see God differently. And so it's all going to become one thing for me. So anyway, I do apologize if me talking about money is difficult and a trigger for you. And I totally understand why that is. But I sort of refuse to let the jackasses steal good things from us. So Jesus was open. I do think if Jesus was walking earth today, he would have a Venmo and Cash App and PayPal account and say, hey, Cash App me, Venmo me, PayPal me. So anyway, and I say Patreon me. Or you can buy a book or do any of the other things. And one of the very basic ways is always sharing my stuff and following me. I do hope you'll see my video and read my blog and my friend Lauren D'Amico's blog about Christian terrorism. I think it's a really important subject in this season. I wrote a little bit about the sexualization of women and how our teaching around modesty has been really unfair and caused this environment to exist. And so we really don't have a moral standing anymore to look at Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion and say, that's wrong. Graham says, can you collaborate with my therapist, or is that not legal? No, I could. So I can collaborate with your therapist, Graham. I just can't claim to be a therapist myself because I'm not. I'm just a coach. But yeah, if I could coach you and me having a discussion with your therapist, talking anything that you gave permission for your therapist to share, yeah, more than willing to do that. If anybody's interested in coaching, I have a new cohort starting in the first week of April. And so send me a DM to find more information about that, or email me through my website, pastor-paul.com, which will take you to my podcast website. And I'll get back to you. Boy, I sure love your comments today. Love it. I see people saying Jesus would have been a socialist, definitely not a Republican. I think Jesus would have eschewed all of those titles. There are definitely parts of the Bible that skew socialistic. But also Jesus tells a lot of parables where the reward for doing well is profit. So I think he would live in the tension between the two. And that's where I want to live most times. I don't want to be Democrat or Republican. I know now that I cannot be Republican because I think what republicanism has become is pretty grotesque in the eyes of God. But I don't want to swing to the other side and now be beholden to the other side of the ledger. I want to live in the tension of the place in the middle where we're like, oh, we're going a little bit too far to this side. Let's pull it back this way a little bit. So one of the ways I characterize this is unions. Unions were born for a righteous purpose. Laissez-faire free market economy was destroying people and destroying workers, and there was nothing to stop it from happening. And so unions rose up for the righteous cause of saying, we want to make sure the workers get paid fairly, have safe working conditions, all of those things. So that's a righteous purpose. Then unions became their own form of oppressive, self-indulgent organization. And when my wife was mayor of our city, she was working with a police union that no longer cared about the needs of the community around it, and to some degree didn't care about the needs of their union members. They cared about the power of the union. They were now serving the organization rather than the righteous cause that they were born to face. So one of the things I said to my wife is like, so honor their purpose and the righteousness of their purpose, but call them back to the righteousness of their purpose. Because all humanity takes righteous things and then starts to build our structure and organization around it. And the next thing you know, we're serving the structure and the organization. We're trying to win power and influence more than we are actually trying to serve the constituency that we righteously raised up to serve. So I can say Republican bad. Now I'm going to go swing to this way other side of the ledger because I'm now not that. I think we got to be careful about that. Live in tension. All right, I got to go. I got to go get set up. My wife and I will be back around 10:30 or so, and we'll do some more. Love you guys. So let me sign off TikTok. Love you, YouTubers.